Annually, Fletcher students select two of their own to speak on behalf of the class at commencement. This year, two students who are known school-wide for their good humor, warm demeanors, and involvement in the life of the school and the community have selected Natalia, Prieto, and Tanay, Tatum as their speakers. Tanay Tatum is a MALD student concentrating her Fletcher studies in international business. While at Fletcher, she has worked as a research assistant, as a teaching assistant for Professor Mankad for the arts communication class, and as a research associate for the Institute for Business in the Global Context, where she researched and published 6 case studies on shared business practices among Fortune 500 companies. Tanay was also a member and project manager of the 5-person equity research team that was a finalist in the highly competitive Chartered Financial Analysts Institute's Research Challenge. In the summer between her first and second year of studies, Tanay was a business development fellow with Arifu, an educational technology startup in Nairobi, where, among other things, she worked on a business case for Vodafone's mobile payment service, M-Pesa. Before enrollment at Fletcher, Tanay was a Fulbright teaching fellow in South Africa and a fundraising events specialist where, among other things, she worked and advised on events for several U.S. senators and hundreds of public and private sector organizations. Tanay is an honors graduate of Vassar College, where she majored in Africana Studies and Sociology, and where she was president of the Student Association. Tanay.
Thank you, deans, family, friends. Most importantly, the class of 2017. We made it. Thank you all so much for giving me the chance to share this moment with you up here. Last semester, a Fletcher alum visiting our marketing research class told us that at some point in our careers, all of us will face the same tough decision. Do we continue doing the Fletcher thing, where we jet set across the world tackling new, exciting challenges? Or do we settle down and establish roots? Those of you who know me know that I am an intense planner, so naturally I've been grappling with this decision since I was 12. I've always known I wanted to travel the world and have impact in a big way, so when I won a Fulbright to South Africa, my 12-year-old self felt like we had finally made it. I taught in an under-resourced township where many of my students lacked access to running water, and most of my coworkers lacked college diplomas. On most days, I'm proud of the work we accomplished there. But on other days, I'm disappointed by what I avoided. You see, the shooting of Trayvon Martin happened a few months before I departed to South Africa. Like me, Trayvon was a young black kid from Florida who wore hoodies and loved Skittles. Unlike me, he didn't make it to his 18th birthday. Black Americans have always known that we are disproportionately stopped, harassed, and sometimes killed by law enforcement. But for the first time, this issue was getting national media attention. But here I was in South Africa, bending over backwards, trying to figure out how to make myself relevant. Meanwhile, there was a national movement brewing back at home. I felt guilty. I knew a ton of people who would be willing to trade places with me on a Fulbright, but not as many who were willing to do community organizing in Florida. So like any good millennial working through their guilt, I started blogging. I used it to educate people about the connections between the two countries. I talked about how Nelson Mandela often credited Martin Luther King as an inspiration for the anti-apartheid movement. I talked about slavery, both in South Africa and the United States, and the role it played in creating our very vibrant cultures. I also wrote about the parallels in education policy failures between the two countries and how each could learn from the lessons of the other. But despite these efforts, I still felt like I needed to choose a side. Was I a citizen of the world or a citizen of the United States? Like many of you, coming to Fletcher was my way of committing myself to a global agenda. But then, the 2016 election happened. That next day after on campus, there was so much sadness. Sadness as many of you watched the hopes of H-1B visas become farther out of reach. And for many of my American classmates, there was also a feeling of guilt. Guilt that we had let our international friends down. Guilt that we hadn't done all that we could to drive the moral agenda of this country. When you have the chance to exert influence and choose not to, that is a political choice. And avoiding the emotional dive into local politics was a choice that many of us made. But international friends, you're not off the hook. This feeling of guilt as it relates to politics transcends across borders. I've talked to so many of you who are still grappling with where to take your next job. Now that you have these skills, do you go back to Indonesia, Rwanda, Madagascar to help build institutional capacity? Or do you cash in on the American education that you have worked so hard to attain? I wish I could confidently stand up here and tell you that I have the answer to this question. But I don't. What I can say, though, is that Fletcher has taught me that any successful global strategy starts at a local level. The adaptation strategies we learn in our business classes, the human-centered design concepts we've mastered in development, all of these things show us how to incorporate local needs into our global approaches. The two are closely connected. And that is what I love about you guys. You all get it. You all recognize how failed policies in Syria and North Africa impact immigration to Europe. You understand that the US economy is much weaker without NAFTA. You see the value in multilateral organizations like NATO and the UN. It is sometimes easy to forget that the future of these policies will be determined by local politics. But this is where that special Fletcher sauce comes in. We don't just learn and critique, we act. We act based on our values, and we act locally on our global agenda. When the federal government tried to block passage of passport holders from 7 predominantly Muslim countries, you used your law degrees, you took to the streets, you called members of Congress, you wrote op-eds, you organized. We all came to Fletcher because we are committed to something bigger than ourselves, to service across boundaries. This commitment will require a lifetime's worth of stamina, and the friends we've made here will hold us accountable to ourselves. We owe it to the uninsured, the underemployed, the refugees, the Trayvon Martins. We owe it to everyone outside the ivory tower who can't imagine realities like the ones we live. For every Brexit and Trump, there is a Merkel and Macron. And, my friends, we have a very important role to play in shaping history's long arc towards justice. Today, I have not committed to a job yet, and I still don't know how much of the Fletcher thing I'll get the chance to do. But I do know that I will continue to draw connections across borders and build mutual understanding across differences. I will speak up for those whose voices are missing from the room. I will act on my values, and I will do it locally, no matter where that local may be. I will call on all of you to help me do it, and I hope you will call on me too. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatum, for those stirring words. Natalia Prieto, an MIB student, concentrated her Fletcher studies in strategy and international communications. At Fletcher, Natalia has served as a teaching assistant for Professor Tolman's course, Leading the Global Corporation, and Professor Ibrahim's course, International Business Strategy and Operations. Since enrollment at Fletcher, Natalia has worked as a business analyst for the Investors Collaborative, conducting market analysis of emerging technologies in companies. Prior to enrollment at Fletcher, Natalia worked for 4 years for Compartanos con Colombia, the leading social innovation consulting firm in Colombia, where she held a number of progressively responsible positions, including associate consultant, project manager, social innovation lab area leader, and strategy and business development leader. She also worked for Offbound Adventures, the largest outdoor education company in Latin America, where she advised on strategies and international strategies. Natalia holds 2 degrees from the University of the Andes, a bachelor's degree in economics and a master's degree in engineering. I think we also should note that she was a top former Colombian national soccer player. After graduation, Natalia will work with DataWheel, a technology startup that works with private and public sector organizations building data analytics and visualization platforms to assist policymakers, business leaders, and individuals to make informed decisions. Natalia, please come forward.
You think I was not gonna do it? I can't believe I'm standing here. So yes, I'm gonna take a photo as a millennial, a selfie one. Smile. Friends and colleagues, thank you for giving me the honor of representing you. This is your fault. Family, thank you for giving me existence and for giving me my education. Chairman, board members, professors, thank you for supporting us all. And thank you for supporting my crazy, what I called, my commencement speech project. For me, making this speech has been, like Fletcher, the journey of a journey. And yes, I have enjoyed every single second of it. It is a product of countless meetings, surveys, yes, I did them. The numbers will not be up here, though. Insights from the Fletcher family, and I really hope my speech meets the expectations of being about all of us. That said, I'm going to start talking about me. I don't know if you can tell, but I have a little bit of accent when I speak in English. To be honest, this accent has gotten stronger since I'm here. My friends always make fun of me because I always say, in Colombia? Much stronger than needed. Why do I do this? Well, to begin, soy colombiana. However, like many of us, I do not call only one place home. My family is from Boyacá. I was raised in Bogotá. I have family in Bucaramanga and all over the country, in France and all over the world. I grew up in the Colombia of narcos. I was born and raised at a time in which the internal guerrilla FARC conflict was part of the day-to-day, where there was fear and a sense of insecurity. Whenever you traveled outside, people had heard about Colombia just because of drugs. There was a disconnect between this and the situation of love and passion I felt from my dear Colombians when I traveled around the country. In my not-so-distant youth, as Professor Salakiu said, I was lucky enough to be part of the Women's National Soccer League and travel around the country for matches, but as well for community building. And across the nation, we all came together to sing, celebrate, and support our team. Reconciling this disconnect was what brought me to Fletcher. And it was here at Fletcher that I learned that regardless of our nationality, our career, our gender, our religion, our political affliction, we all come here because we're seeking to resolve this disconnect. We all see the world in its beautiful yet ugly complexity. We have a genuine curiosity about life and the lives of others. We have a burning desire to bring about the world that which ought to be. My grandmother, who passed away at 92 just last year, used to always tell me, "Mija, remember that we should never stop learning. We should never stop asking." Fletcher mates, we're all askers of life. And as much as we want to learn from the world, we also want to embrace what it means to be part of it. Parents, here's a little secret. We put as much effort into our cultural nights, Africana, Asia, My Latinos, Mediterranean, Americana, as we do into our degrees, regardless of where we come from. So please raise your hands who here has lived abroad for more than 6 months. Raise your hand who speaks another language. Yes, cheers for those who passed the language exam. Friends, we are explorers. When we travel, we don't just do it as tourists. We embed in the place. We want to experience what it feels like to be part of that community. Who here went to Israel? How about Cuba? Asia? Iceland? Twice in Iceland, Max? I was selected to go to the Israel Trek. When we visited Syria in the Golan Heights, only 100 yards away from the border, we met with a 5-star general of the Israeli army, and she gave us her interpretation of the complexities occurring across the border. We listened, analyzed, debated, and inquired with challenging yet respectful questions, knowing that there's always more complexity than we think. We wanted to feel the hardships of those suffering for those pressing issues of humanity. We traveled with the principle of empathy. We embrace our differences and respect others because that is what we were pushed to in this place. It's my accent again. But finally, we are also courageous dreamers and doers. So, molds. There is no other program in the world with such a grandiose title as a Master's in Law and Diplomacy. You are so fearless and with such passion pursue a lot of pressing issues: human security, negotiation and conflict resolution, environment, gender. I wish I could name them all. As a classmate, I have had the privilege of hearing, seeing, feeling your passion. Thank you so much for making every single space a place of analytical discussion and challenging us to action. Thank you. Not yet, not yet. PhDs, you are problem solvers as much as you are academics. I have had the privilege of sitting in some of your dissertations, and I'm grateful to have had the privilege to hear those dissertations, because you deeply understand, but you also are capable of making a difference, and making a difference with your dissertations. LLMs. Without you, this wouldn't be a school of law. That's one of the L's, Professor Sheena. You are at the center of Fletcher. Thank you for having the courage to go to the undefined spaces of international law, for believing that there's a value in sharing with us your knowledge. It was a privilege to be your classmate. GMAPs, who are not here today, your choice to enrich your life and work with this experience is a model for me and for all of us. MAs, you enlightened our classes with wisdom and questions informed by your diverse and longer career paths. My respect to you and your families for having the courage of taking this year off to share with all of us in class. Finally, my dear MIBs, we are a new program in this institution, and we in ourselves bring debate to it. Why are these business people around here? Shouldn't they be doing an MBA? Are we confused? We are here because we discovered in Fletcher the same beauty as the rest of the programs, and we have the courage of believing that a better way of approaching problems does exist, and that it makes people from all disciplines to be able to accomplish it. Fletcheries. We're here today because we have given ourselves the opportunity to pursue our passion for learning without fear. We should now be equally fearless to find the job. Parents, here's my second little secret. We will find a job. But it might take us longer. Because, as I said, we ask too much. We have devoted too much time and effort in making sure that purpose is the ultimate driver of the actions we take. In addition to the heritage that came with us, we now belong to the citizenry, come on, I can do it, of Fletcher graduates. We have the responsibility to carry this new experience and make it part of our identity. With the same pride and integrity, we carry out our nationalities. My call to action is to continue being who you have shown to be here, to never forget to question, never forget to stand in the shoes of others, never forget to act with the courage, and never forget that we will always be part of the Fletcher Mafia. From now on, I am not only Colombiana, I am also Fletcher. The Fletcher identity will live with us beyond graduation. We are part of the Fletcher family. Be yourself, be Fletcher, but most importantly, be the world. Thank you.